Welcome everyone. Welcome, Dave. I'm so excited to be back here with you again today.
Nice to be here. Good to see you again.
So I know last week we kind of went over a little bit on cryptocurrency and also a new use of it. We talked about cryptocurrency crowdfunding. So that was really interesting to kind of hear about new ways to use it. So today I kind of want to circle back to some of our old conversations. And we had talked about NFTs, we talked about cryptocurrency, and then we really started to go into Chat GPT and we started to talk about AI. And I feel like this week's been an explosion. Now, obviously, every week leading out since November 30th has been just so much coming out there. What are some of the buzzes and what are some of the excitements that you've been hearing this last week or that have been happening in that realm?
Yeah, sure. The most interesting one was two actually, was this week with Google making what I can loosely call a soft launch on their rival, for want of a better word, for ChatGPT called Bard, B-A-R-D, that's spelled. It's only going to go out to a select few to test it because I think they've had, they want to get it right, which I completely get. And that was announced 2 days ago. So I wrote a post on LinkedIn about it, sort of telling everyone how exciting this was. And, you know, they're giving Microsoft a bit of a run for their money. And then yesterday, which I found out this morning when I woke up, there was an announcement from Microsoft that they were going to incorporate ChatGPT on their search engine Bing. So there's clearly an AI war battle, if you like, that's starting. Well, it's not starting. It started a while back, but it's the momentum is picking up a little bit. But yes, we've got a lot of people that are writing how positive it can be, and of course you've got others that are saying the complete opposite. They're worried about jobs and they're worried about their future, and I completely get that and sympathize with all involved. And then you've got other news where you've got tech entities that are shelling jobs left, right, and center. You know, they've all gone through it. Microsoft have done it, Google have done it, Meta have done it, Twitter have done it. That will continue because the way that they've been employed in the past has been quite reckless. So they've had to cut things back to basics again. But that's only scratching the surface. You've got the retail guys that will be doing it and many, many, many other people. You know, we're going through a lot of change in the world. Even in the Far East, there's noise coming from there. Their Google equivalent are also looking to launch a Chat GPT type program as well. So AI is really starting to kick in, and it's starting to get a lot better than it's ever been. It's not perfect yet, but there's some work to do. But it's looking quite exciting. So that's what I've heard of late.
That's awesome. No, it's really interesting. So we talked a little bit about people being fearful of their losing their jobs. And what I found interesting, and I had heard, and I thought it was kind of a great way to explain it, is that, you know, a lot of these top jobs are actually the first ones that are going away, like copywriters and things like that, unless they do the first movers advantage, unless they're able to shift their mindset and go, okay, AI is here. It's not going away. Like it, love it, hate it. Doesn't matter what our views are on it. It's definitely the way of the future. And so those who move first into learning it and applying it are really going to be the ones who win. And you had shared, and maybe you can go a little bit more in about the whole prompt engineering. And so kind of that first mover's advantage and then taking care of or using prompt engineering to kind of make, like, say, Chat GPT work for you.
Yeah. Prompt engineering is exactly what it says on the tin. So if you engineer the correct prompts into Chat GPT as an example, or any AI tool, I use an art tool called Midjourney. That's MID Journey. If you work out what it is that you want it to do, and word it in that way, it will do it. If you want to find out, if you put in something generic like the history of the world, or describe the final days of the Second World War, it will do it, but it will be quite broad and it will be quite thick. But if you wanted to know about a specific date, and if you wanted to write it in a certain style, it's getting more and more information fed in, and it's starting to do that as well. So things that ChatGPT is not good at, and let's address the white elephant in the room for now, are things like, it's not great on maths. So if you ask it to do something quite complex, it's a bit hit and miss. Sometimes it gets it, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're a copywriter and you've got a real busy, heavy workload, you can get a head start with this stuff and go, right, I want to write, I don't know, a social media post about how important NFTs could be in the future. I'll just pick a subject that I'm sort of passionate about. And it will write something quite robotically generic, but factually it'll be there or thereabouts. So you can turn that and re-engineer it so it will read and sound better. So how that will work is, write me a post about the benefits of NFTs, and it will do exactly that. And it will have lots of bullet points. And you'll read this, you go, yeah, it's a bit, it's not very human. So you can go into each bullet point and ask it to elaborate on that. Can you go deeper into this? Can you explain the pros and cons? Because people like to know both sides of the story, and it will do that for you. Now, there's nothing to stop anyone going into Google or Bing or Brave, any of those search engines, and typing in that same question. You'll get a load of stuff. You'll get a load of information. So Google, your first 6 or 7 is the ads. No one wants to go on those because you just get bombarded with all that stuff. And you'll go 6 or 7 websites and you'll think, I think I've got there. I think I've got what I want. And then you might go onto a blog page and ask for somebody else's opinion, especially if it's a subject that you're not completely fluent in, right? And copywriters tend to stick with what they know. So for them, this next bit really isn't that much of an issue. But if you're doing it for yourself, for your own business, because you can't afford a copywriter, you might have to go, look, I've got to give some kind of content. Something's better than nothing, but I want it right. ChatGPT, if you know what to ask it, will more or less get you there. You'll look at it and go, yeah, that looks about okay. It sums up what NFTs are about. It explains, how blockchain works. It explains about crypto wallets. It explains about cryptocurrencies and so on and so forth. And bang, you've got a bit of content there that you can put out. And you can cut it up into little bits and pieces if you sort of got an email campaign going. So for things like that as well, writing emails or responding to one that you're not really sure how to, because one of the disadvantages to writing to somebody is you have no idea as the recipient what frame of mind that person was in that wrote it in the first place, or what they actually mean in terms of tone. So you've got a difficult sort of way of deciding for whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, But with some of these AI models now, they're getting that smart where it's possible to, and I tried this a few times and it worked really well. I got some good followers from LinkedIn, write in a casual manner. So here's a post, respond to this in a casual manner. I did it 2 days ago and I got 50 followers in about 40 minutes. So to pick that up, because it aligned with what they were trying to say and it understood that a lot quicker than I can ever get, happy days. Now you'll get people that do this for a living day in and day out that live on blogs, because websites are blogs, they're these social media sites, they're basically blogs. They will debate as to whether it's actually worth their time or not to do that, because they know. But if I said to the content writer, the copywriter, look, I know you're from, let's say, the farming community. I want you to write something that completely gives a breakdown of how Bitcoin works. Understand the Bitcoin paper. Now, I read the white paper a few days, well, it wasn't a few days, a few weeks after it was released, and I didn't get it. It took me a little while to get it. And I understand finance and insurance products and things like that. Now, to someone that doesn't, that comes into a new field, the heavy lifting can be done if they know the right questions to ask into ChatGPT. So prompt engineering is really about learning certain phrases that you probably know. So it's like a normal conversation. So if you can imagine, replace ChatGPT with person of that skill and that backline. So you can even tell it you're an expert in whatever field that is that you want to have this discussion about. Can you explain to me the pros and cons of using Bitcoin? And it will do exactly that. When you ask it another question on point 1 down to point 10, let's say you've got 10 points to go through, it will do that for you as well. Google doesn't. You can't get a list of websites and go, thanks for sending me those websites, Google. I now need you to clarify each point, because the points aren't there. You've got to go and find it yourself. So it's a time-saving thing that I see it as. One of the downsides, of course, to this is because companies are wising up to how quickly these things can be generated, the amount of monies that they're prepared to pay for the content writer skills, as an example, will be significantly reduced. But then if you look at it from the flip side, because they've got more time, they could perhaps go and get more clients. I don't know. I'm very much on the fence on both sides, because I can see some of their resistance, but I can also see the benefits. And I keep going over the same thing. I do sympathize with them, but I think the pros outweighs the cons in the long run.
You know, you just brought up a good point on having influencers or people that are sharing products for other companies. So as an influencer, as somebody who gets PR packages sent to them, I thought about it as you were talking about that. And I thought, you know what, you're right. They might not want to offer you as much for sharing their products. But then at the same token, because now it's easier for you as a content creator, it's easier for you as an influencer to pump it out. Now just go find a product that pays you. Go find an affiliate program that pays you. And so that way you're actually making more income. And it's going to, and I'm looking at it two ways. It could bite them by shortcutting the influencer, because the influencer could go direct to manufacturer and promote their own products, you know, on an Amazon store or whatever, versus working with a company.
Here's the thing. I'm from an insurance background. So let's say you're a brokerage that sells insurance products. And I don't know many insurance brokers that are good at what they do. And most of them are, but that can also do designing a website, putting content together. It's not just the ability, it's the time factor as well. So of course, what do? When they're in that position, they outsource it. So here's the deal. Insurance broker comes up to you and says, Amy, I hear you're doing some great work on AI. I don't care about that per se, but I want you to do this for me. And let's assume you're a content creator. So you'll create content, you'll put it on, and it'll be super quick. And the perception really is, wow, she's very efficient. She knows how to use AI. I'm going to tell some friends of mine that are also in this industry or associated industries. Some of my customers might know. So if you can get that stuff to people quicker, they're going to be more productive and they're going to come back and ask for more. That's how I see it. So yes, you might be doing work with more clients, but you're getting paid from more clients as well. And then it's like that sort of that funnel system. It will just go outwards to others. There'll be people that will be learning about AI today, going forward if they're smart, and how to utilize it and how it's going to help them help others. Because let's face it, not everybody that runs a business has got time to sit down and study how to do things like prompt engineering, because they haven't. They're running a business. Let them run the business. Let them carry on giving you that work. You get that back to them quicker. Yes, all right, you might not get paid as much, But if you could do 5 jobs in a day and get paid the same as you would, I don't know, let's say you earn, I don't know, $500 in a day working with 2 clients. And let's say that they will only pay you half the amount. So you've agreed on 250. So you're thinking, right, I now need to find 2 more clients. But if you've got 80% more time, that's pretty straightforward. As such, getting clients obviously is a challenge as well. But do you know what I mean? That's how it could work. So those jobs that you, and this does happen where people haven't got time to do because they're too busy being busy, all of a sudden they've got time back. And what's wrong with doing a 20-hour week and getting paid 40 hours for it? You know, that's how it could work out. So you could be super productive if you sat down and understood it and think, right, my plan this week is to prospect. Next week I'm gonna follow up, and then the week after I'll start working. In the ideal world, that's how it would go. Once you put stuff together and they go, crikey, I'm really impressed with that, I've paid you. Do you know what? Sometimes companies actually give you a little bit of a leg up. You know, they'll go, we realize you're starting out, or you've been with us for a while. We know that you're getting this done quickly. We know how, but that's to our credit. You know, that's going to help us. So that idea might be a short-lived thing. I really, really don't know. But I think that a lot of people are sitting down and thinking the worst, because that's what we do. There are 2 words in life that we use a lot. One's yes, and the one we use more is no. No's the shorter one of the 2, so it's a bit of a cheat, isn't it? So that's in my opinion how I think things could transcribe going forward.
You know, I love how you have really shared so much on the whole AI, the cryptocurrency, the NFT, and just all these different things that are kind of emerging right now. And I sit there and I look at my own situation, and I think about other entrepreneurs that are maybe starting something small and don't really have budgets. By the things that you've shared with me just in the last several weeks, I'm able to cut out so many people. And as you know, an entrepreneur that's writing a book who doesn't have big budgets to work with, from the things that you shared with me, I'm able to now use some of this to go into working on my editing for my book, that I don't have to necessarily hire an editor now. Then you've also shared with me, even on the artwork, on how I could create my own cover without having to hire out a book cover person. Then as I'm looking at even doing a landing page for my book, you've shared with me how I can use AI to write my landing page, how I could then create even my book trailer to attach to it using, I know I'll have to re-ask you on some of the different names of the things. So maybe you can share a little bit now. So you have Chat GPT, but then you also have different AI that can be prompt into artwork. Let me see if I can open my screen share. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Cancel. Okay, let me see. Sorry.
Whilst you're looking, what will probably happen is Google, Microsoft, maybe possibly Apple and a few others, they'll probably have a one-size-fits-all where you can go in and go, right, I need content, I need to design a book cover, because one of the downsides to AI at the moment is when you've got some if you want to have a picture and it's got a word, so I'm trying to think of an example. So a sports uniform with, say, the Cubs that are on it. So you have the word Cubs, and you'll see it in the photo, go, well, that says Cubs. When you put something like that through AI, it looks like Russian writing. It's very weird. So they haven't quite got that yet. That will come. But we've got to remember this technology is relatively new in terms of how it's being used. So eventually, I have this vision where I think you could be pro Apple, you could be pro Google, pro Microsoft, whatever your fancy is. They'll probably have an area which will do everything for you. Go, right, I want you to check my spelling on my book. I want you to check the layout to see that it reads right, because at the moment it's not quite there. It's close, but a lot of it is very, very robotic. And you could think, well, if I've got time to check it and I've got the experience and know-how, great. I don't have any in-depth knowledge of publishing, but I know people that do, and I know people that can proofread and so forth. One of my business partners, she does that. But at the end of the day, we are all reliant on people's time and whether they can do it. And people are busy and one thing and another. And I've got a very flippant attitude to writing. I'm not great at it. I never have been. I never will be. It doesn't really interest me per se. But if you've got something that makes sense and you try and trickle it out and it works, great. You know, I reckon some of this great literacy that we've seen over the years, literature rather, some of it's been very, very sort of, whoa, where did that come from? And over time, it's made sense. Back then, it might not have. And some of it's pure genius, and some of it's very future forward-looking and everything else. But I think when you get the idea, put it on a bit of paper, and then start to play around with it as it does become yours, that's when you'll find yourself with the project that you're doing. That's when you'll find yourself in a, right, I've got the introduction, I've got the chapter, I might even have the end stuff sorted out. I've got the front cover and the back cover, and I've got some illustrations sorted out, and I've done all that myself. There'll probably be a lot of people that will do the same that you're doing in the future because they'll be able to. Whereas before, last year, even as late as August last year, I was thinking, people tell me to write a book because I've seen a lot of things happen in life and things like that. I'm not interested in writing a book, but maybe I should. And I've had people approach me and say, put pen to paper, I'll help you, etc., but it's going to cost you 10 grand. Well, thanks, I haven't got 10 grand, you know. So we all have this Gary Vaynerchuk, I love the guy, he comes out and he says, it's all about content, you know, you put content out, don't worry about what it's like because something will stick. And you may, one of three things will happen when you do your book. It will go really well, it won't go really well, or it will sit somewhere in the middle. I hope it does the first, to be honest, of course I do. But what you will do is you'll learn from that no matter what the outcome is. And that's the whole point about every emerging tech and every business. You get out what you put in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's so great to have all these new things emerging, because how you talked about like the $10,000, I spoke with several different editors. We're only talking about the editing. We're not talking about book trailers. We're not talking about landing pages. We're not talking about marketing or anything, but just the editor. It was every quote that I was getting was between $30,000 and $60,000. And that was me writing it. That was not having ghost writing. That was not having, and that starts going way up from there. And just to eliminate such large cost is amazing in itself. It opens up the opportunity. Think how many people have something to share with the world that don't have an extra $30,000 or $60,000 sitting in their bank. I mean, I found, and actually it was an editor that you shared with me, fell in love with her. I think she was based in London. And, I might still do some work with her to finalize everything. And we got our costs down because I was going to do like 99% of everything, down to, it was 3,000 some dollars. That's still a chunk of change. That's still not sometimes attainable for everybody. And so with having these new things come out, if we learn to live in our right brain a little bit more, if we learn to live in our creative side a little bit more, everything is open to us now. It's so amazing how open the world is.
You're absolutely right. And it's no coincidence you mentioned creativity, because that's the thing that stops people. I am really guilty of that, or was. And one of the biggest followed hashtags on LinkedIn is the word creativity. It's something like, I can't remember when I last looked, but it's anywhere between 20 and 30 million people follow that hashtag. Innovation's the second biggest, and technology is the third biggest. The biggest is India for some reason, but it's probably due to the amount of people that live over there. But where's China? Anyway, but that in itself is a testimony to guide people as to what people are looking for. You know, they want to know what the next best thing is. They want to know what tech is up and coming, because virtually everything that we do is all about technology now. Never used to be, but it's starting to be the be all and end all for virtually everything. Even, I mean, you look around your apartment, I look around where I live, everything I'm looking at has got a technological side to it. Whether it's my phone, my wallet with my credit cards in, because the credit cards are part of technology, even the paper book, the A5 book I've got in front of me, it's all about technology. And that's where, when we were talking about tokenization of assets, whether it's a car, a house, a property portfolio, whether it's an art collection, it's big stuff now. People are now finally getting around to what digitalization really is. Because when the calculator came out in the late 60s, 70s, whenever it was that wow factor, you know, digital watch. That was another thing. I remember pressing mine and it had like red dial numbers that come up. That told me the time, and then you let go of it and it went off. There was a show in the States, I can't remember what it was called now, that had the same sort of thing. And it was all very futuristic, but now we've sort of got digital wallets where we put crypto in and fiats. You know, I don't use a credit card anymore. I take my phone with me and pay for stuff. I wouldn't have done that before COVID, you know. So that in itself has taught us how we can do things a little bit more efficient. But we still have to have a fallback. We still have to have things where traditional things like property in our portfolio, we want to have a physical asset. If we're collectors of vintage cars, we want to have the physical asset. But to transfer that asset from A to B, if you have it in an NFT on a platform like Rareables or OpenSea or something like that, why not? You know, it's just a new way of doing things. It's not crypto dodgy or anything like that. It's just a different way that we are going as a species, you know. Because we've come a long way. We used to deal with shells and tulips and goodness knows what else, paper money, and you know, I've got the equivalent to $35 in my wallet as paper. I haven't had that for ages, because I can't spend it. No one around here takes it. It's I've got to get to my bank and put it in, because they obviously will. But this is where we're going. Everything that we're looking at is, oh yeah, can you send it via email with the attachment? We don't want it in the post. You know, it takes too long, and we haven't got that time. So these technologies that are around, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's NFTs, crypto, you know, new digital money, you know, whether it's a digital dollar that's probably going to come out in a few years' time, it's there to save time. And you know, how we use it is all part of education. And that's another thing: education, risk, how you adopt a risk, how you see things, how risky they are. That will vary from person to person. We've all got a different view on risk, every one of us, and mine differs within certain sectors. You know, some things I don't find at all risky, some other things I do, and other people go, well, I don't see where you're coming from, and could think the other way around. It's what makes us different.
Mm-hmm. No, I think this has been so powerful and so great. And I'll tell you, I've been so privileged over the last several months to have several conversations with you. And I know, you know, for me, having a background as a makeup artist, all of this was foreign. This has been so new to me and out of my realm. And I feel like I'm finally getting a much better grasp. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, a lot of you guys out there listening to us, that these are foreign conversations to you. These are not things that you're quite wrapping your mind around, or you're not quite comprehending. So I'm going to drop Dave's LinkedIn in the comments down below. And he is available for consulting. He is available so you can have the access that I've been privileged to to start to learn and grow for you guys. And if you have questions, we're here to help. You know, I asked a dumb question, so you don't have to, but definitely drop your questions down below, because you know what? You're going to help somebody else. Not only will you maybe learn from dropping your question down below, but you're going to help somebody who was maybe afraid to ask that question. You know, I'm glad that I'm like the first one who can shout it out no matter how it sounds. So don't be afraid of like, oh, this doesn't sound right. You know, all of us are new to this, even people who have been in tech their whole entire careers, even that 20-year-old that grew up in this realm and now they're working for Google or Metaverse or Meta or whatever, or any of these companies. This is still brand spanking new to them. Even the software engineers, this is brand new. So drop your questions down below, because we're all just in the beginning of it. And then also too, next week, I would love, Dave, maybe you can do a chart. It doesn't have to be crazy. Maybe just draw it out by hand and maybe show the difference of NFT, because I know we talked about, and it took me a while to comprehend the difference between an NFT artwork versus an NFT living contract versus, so kind of what those different purposes for NFTs are. And also kind of how this whole AI, NFT, and cryptocurrency are really a trifecta, and how they all really just are connected and work together. So I think that would be great. So definitely you guys drop down below what you want to learn. And I want to thank you so much, Dave, for your time and really just pouring into everyone, having a heart to see people succeed, having a heart for people to have education in this realm. So thank you so much again. And thank you all of you guys who have tuned in to join us. So thank you so much.
No, that's fine, and we'll look at doing that for next week. I mean, believe it or not, there's there's artificial intelligence that can put like a PowerPoint together for me, and it will take me a few seconds to get that drafted out. It really isn't long at all, because I'm not very good with PowerPoint. I hate it. I just don't like using it. I'd rather say, look, you know, this is how I understand things and what have you. But it is important for people to get, you know, I write an awful lot about how I view things and how I see things coming. I don't know what's coming. I'm not some guru that's just woken up and going, tomorrow this is going to happen. I mean, one of the biggest news things over here in Britain is our government, I think it was yesterday, announced through the Bank of England, who basically is our central bank, like a time frame for CBDCs, which is basically going to be nicknamed the brick coin, which is a really corny, awful name, but it's digital pound. How that's going to look, I think they've got 4 months to debate, negotiate, etc., but they're planning on bringing this out by 2030. You know, that year is going to see an awful lot of change, and in between we're going to have some really wild and exciting times happen as well, I suppose. But yeah, that's that. I'm happy to do that, to sort of show your viewers to you know, an insight as to use cases of NFT, because it is important, because a lot of people in the States and over here in Britain really don't fully understand the use cases and what they're there, because all they hear about is the bad stuff, speculative art, things that were worth $1 million one day and now about 10,000. Yes, markets have done that generally. It's not just the crypto market. A lot of markets have really had their pants felt, as we say over here. But yeah, we'll put something together that will hopefully give people a bit more clarity in terms of what they are, how they can be used, and possibly future use cases for them, because there's many.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to wish all of you guys a fabulous day, and thank you once again, Dave.
No problem. Thanks for having me.